Hello, my name is Dale Winslow. I'm a lifelong resident of Maine from the county, and here I'm going to discuss a video made by Mr. and Mrs. Timberlake over ranked choice voting that they posted back on March 26, 2018. I'm particularly concerned with the disingenuous nature of the video, intentional or not. It's reached tens of thousands of people in Maine, including members of my own family, and has misinformed many of people, especially to a point where they believe that this is the extent of the system. The video's examples are flawed, and I'll be explaining that along with other considerations over ranked choice voting in the following video.
This is a demonstration regarding ranked choice voting in the instant runoff voting system. This example involves 5 candidates: Jane, Sarah, Harry, Dick, and Tom. There are 26 voters. I have already sorted their ballots.
Now, the mock ballots that the Timberlakes use here are a bit disingenuous. First and foremost, there are 5 candidates running, yet all of their examples only ever display 3 candidates on each ballot at most. A voter would only need to rank everyone but one person, 4 people in this situation, to mathematically ensure that their ballot always goes to the final round. The Timberlakes do not do this. Now, it should be mentioned for the ranked choice voting system, you can rank as many candidates as you want. In the context of this example, you can rank 1 of them, or 5 of them, or none of them at all. Though Maine's Secretary of State is permitted to set limits on how many people can be ranked if there is an enormous amount of people on the ballot. But if one is going to make a small demonstration, you want to provide as many examples as you can. But here the Timberlakes do not do this. That's not to say they are intentionally deceiving people, because I don't believe that's the case at all. That said, the Timberlakes use this improper representation to specifically capitalize on the notion of exhausted ballots. This phenomenon is a genuine concern when it comes to ranked choice voting, but it needs to be contextualized as it relates to any sort of runoff voting system, and there are many. And with that, the more rounds you have, there is an increased chance that there will be ballot exhaustion, and we will get back to that.
In this situation, first round, Jane has 8 votes, Sarah has 6 votes, Harry has 5 votes, Dick has 4 votes, and Tom has 3 votes. With 26 voters, you'd need 14 votes in order to reach a majority. Half of 26 is 13, plus 1 more vote to reach a majority. With ranked choice voting, voters may, if they choose, select second and third choices, or as many candidates exist.
Again, they should have provided examples of ballots with more than 3 ranked candidates.
Here we go with Tom, who is the loser with only 3 votes. So we're going to redistribute these ballots and do a second round of counting. Tom lost, so this ballot goes to Sarah. Tom lost, and this ballot goes to Harry. And Tom lost, and this one goes to Dick. We still do not have a majority. We don't have 14 voters with any one of the candidates. So we go to the next round of counting, and Dick in this situation has the least number, so we're going to take these. Tom is out, and Dick is out, so this ballot goes to Harry. And this one, Dick is out, but Jane is still in the running. That one goes to Jane. On this one, Dick is out, Tom is out. This one again goes to Jane. This one, Dick is out, Sarah's still going. And on this one, Dick and Tom are both out. This ballot becomes exhausted.
Now again, one would only need to rank all but one candidate to ensure their ballot always goes to the last round. That said, it needs to be understood that when you are dealing with runoff elections, whether that means you have to continually go back to the polls or you do it all in one go like with ranked choice voting, there are going to be people who do not participate in following rounds at their own accord, for you rank people at your own accord. There's an incorrect notion that ballot exhaustion is silencing or removing votes, but that's no more true than somebody freely choosing not to go back to the polls in states where you have to go back to the polls for the runoff elections, not going back because they don't like any of the candidates that are left. What we see here is how runoff elections work. you're not always going to get 100% of the original voter base back per round. You then mathematically adjust the following rounds based upon what it takes to get a clear majority with the remaining voter base. For getting a majority for 25 voters is technically different than 26. This is how runoff elections work. In Louisiana, where they have runoff elections for gubernatorial races that don't reach a clear majority, they don't set the requirements to win based off of how many people voted in the last round. Why would they do that here? There is clearly less people.
Now, we still don't have a majority because in this round we have Sarah with 8 votes, Jane with 10 votes, and Harry with 7 votes. So we're going to take the person with 7 votes, Harry, and redistribute these to determine the winner. So as you can see, the ballots of the losers determine the winner.
Since when do we consider voters themselves losers? We're talking about voting here, not gambling on horses. The United States is a constitutional republic. In a republic, your representatives are ideally meant to reflect their constituencies by the best means democratically possible. Is ranked choice voting perfect? No, absolutely not. But it's got a lot of support, and it's better than what we currently have. Given the past 50 years of first past the post, the plurality system, concerning gubernatorial elections in the state of Maine, since that is what this push for ranked choice voting is all about here, only 3 out of 12 gubernatorial elections, the winner actually got a majority of the vote. And out of the 9 elections where the winner got less than 50% of all the votes, 5 of those were wins between 30 and 40%. Clearly, there's a problem when 60% of the state are quote-unquote losers. One could definitely argue that the majority have a right to be upset. Ranked choice voting is a voting system in response to real issues the state of Maine has been facing with the spoiler effect. Third parties uniquely do well in this state. But what is currently happening is voters are being punished for liking popular candidates. For if there are more than 2 popular candidates, the 2 or more that are most similar may split the vote, giving the election to a candidate that's not necessarily the most liked overall, most reflective of the entire constituency. We need to stop thinking of elections as winners and losers, and more so as a means of putting people in office that most accurately reflect their constituency. Not the radicals, not the political parties, but their constituency. We should have voting systems that reflect the fact that people can like more than one candidate at a time. Because at the end of the day, we are all living under who wins. And because of that, especially in a state where third parties do well, we should do the most we currently can to empower the voice of all of us and force the candidates in the state of Maine to cater to all of us and not just rely on their base, which most frequently empowers radical positions.
Tom is out, and Dick is out, and Harry is out, so this is another exhausted ballot. This is like that voter never bothered to show up and vote. Again, same thing. Tom is out, Harry's out, and Dick is out. Another ballot that will be exhausted. This one, same thing. Harry's out, Dick is out, Tom is out. Another exhausted ballot. On this one, Harry is out, Dick is out, but Sarah's still going. On this one, Harry is out, Sarah's still going. She's the second choice. On this one, Harry is out, Dick is out, third choice is Jane. And on this one, Harry is out, Dick is out, and Jane is the third choice. And this one goes to Jane. So in this final round, the winner is selected with a mere 12 votes. Jane wins with 12 votes, not 14. Sarah received 10 votes, and these 4 voters had their ballots deducted from the total cast. So instead of 26, we were down to 22. These are thrown away and deducted from the majority. The proponents of ranked choice voting insisted that they were going to guarantee a majority. How is redefining the majority a true majority? This is not a true majority. This is a new voting system that involves throwing away ballots.
Whew, there's a lot to unpack here. First things first, the Timberlake's example, and I don't know if they intended this or not, would have given the same outcome regardless of ranked choice voting being used or not. With first past the post, the current system, Jane wins with 30% of 26 votes. In Maine, Winning a plurality with 30% of the vote has proven to be a huge problem, though. But given the example the Timberlakes made, ranked choice voting only validated that out of all of those who were willing to participate, they still ultimately favored Jane. But I remind you, the ballots that were removed were only exhausted, not applicable to the next round, and not simply removed or thrown out, because the voters themselves chose simply to not rank 4 out of the 5 candidates, and ultimately didn't vote for either Jane or Sarah. Nothing has been removed in regards to what the voters themselves are not directly responsible for. And also, the ballots themselves are also kept. The data for each round is recorded along with all the other information on the ballots. Thrown out is a misleading word to use. Next, the terms majority and true majority are being used quite awkwardly here, which likely may be due to miscommunication on both sides. Obviously, winning a majority with ranked choice voting is within the context of how runoff elections work. If anybody is promising you that you're going to get a majority out of all voters that even participated, that's not necessarily going to happen, and I've never heard that argued by anybody. But I'm sure somebody might. I've already said all of this before, but in short, we don't set the standards for how much you need to win based upon the last round of voting. And clearly, with a 30% win, the majority of opponents to ranked choice voting seemingly have no problem with a candidate winning with 30% of the total vote, still less than a true majority. Jane received 46% of the total 26 votes with ranked choice voting, which is still more than any other candidate, and not a percentage I believe proponents could be upset with. Nobody's redefining the majority. The majority is context specific. What would be a significant example is if Harry, Sarah, and Tom shared a lot of the same views, only to subsequently split the vote between each other and giving it to Jane, despite the majority of voters wanting a candidate more similar to Sarah, Harry, and Tom. So I don't know who these proponents the Timberlakes are talking about are, or who specifically is stating that the system will always ensure a true majority out of all voters. But I have a feeling the Timberlakes are creating a straw man by misrepresenting their opponents and subsequently trying to create an example to criticize them with. But unfortunately, their example does not do this very well. Their example proves that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of how this system, ranked choice voting, works, and are using disingenuous language to misrepresent how runoff elections work in general. And lastly, this voting system isn't new. It's been used for decades in Ireland, Scotland, Australia, Malta, and even different communities in the United States.
You mean the person, nobody got 14 votes to win?
Nope, no one got 14 votes to win with ranked choice voting. It's very common for ballots to be exhausted and thrown out. These are 4 votes that were thrown out. A true majority would have been 14 with ranked choice voting. With this situation, the winner won with a mere 12 votes.
That don't seem fair to me.
It's not fair and it's unconstitutional.
It's fair and is being argued whether it's constitutional or not because the Maine state constitution argues that candidates must win with a plurality. But because a lot of this is semantics, people have been making arguments, and judges, more importantly, have been making arguments on both sides. With that being said, though, you can amend the Constitution. Ranked choice voting passed a popular vote back in 2016 and was supported by a people's veto in 2017 to prevent lawmakers from repealing it and putting it on hold at the very least. It is going to have to be voted on again in June of 2018, next month in relationship to this video, so we'll see how things work out. And I hope maybe you learned something. Take care.